Hi guys, and welcome back to another tool review video. The tool I'm going to be showing you today is an Oxy Acetylene torch from Victor. It's the 350 heavy duty firepower series. Now here's the torch. This is what you get with it. You get an extra tip here. You get the cutting tip as well. You get the hoses. You get the gauges. You do not get the tanks here that you see. And for a striker, you just get a cheap one like this. I got this one for myself because it's a lot better. And the hose that came with it is 25 feet in length. I've got it all coiled on my rack here. And here's one tip I got with it. It's a number 2. This is a heating or welding tip. For heating, actually, I use more the cutting tip for that. But if I'm wanting to heat up something really fine or small, I'll use this tip here. It feels pretty heavy in the hands. It feels like good quality. It is made in China though. This does come off. You can put a different tip here at the end if you want. I did purchase a larger tip here for heating stuff. Even though this is the cutting tip, I often use it for heating, as I mentioned, because there's a few more flames coming out of here than this other little tip here. And on this torch here, the instructions say to turn off the oxygen first when you're done using the torch. Some other torches, they'll say to turn off the acetylene first. And the torch has built-in flashback arresters. And here it is. And here's some model numbers on the torch. This is the box you're going to get it in. It's empty now. Here's more specs here. For what I do in my small engine shop, I didn't need the most expensive torch set, but I'm happy that it's at least heavy duty. And here's more specs on the side of the box. And here it is in Spanish and in French. And here's the website. I'll just give you a close look here at the regulators. Here's the one for the acetylene. They seem fairly good. They seem solid. And here's the oxygen one. I did, however, have to buy an adapter to go from the acetylene tank to the acetylene regulator. And by the way, I bought these little tanks. I have 2 sets. I didn't want to go to rentals because I find that I don't use that much gas. These 2 tanks here will last me approximately 1 year, but it's still cheaper for me to have bought the tanks than to be renting them. I did the math. For me, that was the best thing to do, but depending on how much you use it, you may want to go with the bigger tanks that you rent. It doesn't cost much more to fill them with the acetylene or oxygen, even though the tanks are bigger. It's just you're paying a rental fee whether you use them or not. I'm just going to light up the torch to show it to you guys. Again, I'm not a professional welder by any means, so always make sure to read your instructions before using your torches. So now I'm going to open up the oxygen cylinder, and I'm going to open up the valve very slowly, and always stand away from the regulators in case something ever blows up. And I'm going to turn out the oxygen valve all the way up. And I'll open up the acetylene cylinder. Now this is a different kind of valve, and I'm only going to open this about half a turn out to 3/4 of a turn maximum. Now I'm going to set my oxygen pressure to about 20 to 30 psi. And I'm going to set my acetylene to 6 psi maximum. And on this gauge over here, it tells me what's left in the tank. It's just under 1500 psi. When the tank's full, it's at approximately 2000 psi, so it's highly pressurized. And again, I can't stress the importance of being very careful with these tanks in your shop. And my acetylene tank here is getting pretty low because this is a tank I got from somebody else. And usually when I get this tank filled, it's at approximately 200 psi. And as you can see here now, it's under 50 psi. Usually they'll run out of the oxygen way before the acetylene. One reason I bought a new system too is because every time I went to look at a used set of Oxy Acetylene torches, the regulators were so old and they probably needed to be rebuilt. And I didn't want to take a chance with leaking oxygen or acetylene in my shop, so to me it was just cheaper to buy a new set. This set here cost approximately $300 plus tax. Today I'll be wearing these shades. I find these uncomfortable. These are made for Oxy Acetylene, so they're still good for your eyes. I was just cutting a 1/4" metal plate here. It does cut much thicker than that. My cuts are much to be desired because I do need a lot of practice. It's not something you use a lot in a small engine shop. Usually I only use the torch to heat up stuff. I'm going to heat up this nut and bolt here just to show you how quickly it is. As you saw, that heated very quickly compared to propane or MAP gas. So that's the main reason I have these torches in my shop. Here's an example that I use the torches a lot for, is when I remove an impeller from a shaft. Even getting the roll pins out here, sometimes I have to heat those with the acetylene. And when I take the impeller, it's pretty well guaranteed that I'm going to need the torches to get it off the shaft. As you can see, the shaft is a bit long, so it's got quite a ways to travel to come off. Also, sometimes the auger belt pulley, which is on the back of the impeller on the other side of the snowblower casing, needs to be heated with the acetylene torch as well. Sometimes too, you have to heat up the augers on the shaft just to get them off. Also, an Oxy Acetylene torch can be good if you want to do some brazing, like brazing gas tanks and stuff like that. I also have an old set of carbon arc torches like this that hook up to my arc welder. It does work. It's not as good though as the acetylene torches, and you can't heat up areas as fine as you can with the acetylene. But I do keep them. It's nice to have if you're in a jam, or if you can't afford the acetylene torches and you can find an old set of these. They're inexpensive to operate. All you have to do is hook it up to your AC stick welder. In my small engine shop, I also use the acetylene torches to remove wheels that are jammed on the drive shaft. You have to be very careful doing this, especially if the tire is still on. I usually take all the air pressure out of the tire, and if the rim is getting too hot, like let's say near the tire, then I will remove the tire first before I continue heating it up. And here's another example. The fins here have to be bent this way. You can see they're bent out of shape. This is another time where I would use the acetylene torch to heat it up and bring it back. You're going to come across a whole bunch of different things where these torches will come in handy for you. Again, I can't stress how careful you have to be with these torches, especially with the gas cylinders. And when I'm done using my torches, I always bleed them. As you can see, there's a bit of pressure left inside the hoses, so after I shut off the valve here, I just basically turn out the little valves over here. So I'll turn out the oxygen over here, and then the oxygen at the front here, and you're going to see the needle go down. So what that does is it empties the lines of the gas and oxygen. And I've already done the same for the acetylene, and once I'm done, I turn out the knobs here, just so there's no pressure on them. And that's it. And now I'm just going to shut them back up. And one thing you want to do is always keep it nice and tidy. Make sure the hose is recoiled back onto the loop there. This way there's a lot less chance of tripping in the hose or damaging them. So again guys, thanks for watching. If anybody watching has some good tips to offer, please post your comments under this video. Myself and others watching will appreciate it. I'm not a professional welder or Oxy Acetylene torch user. I just use it for myself in my shop. So any good tips are appreciated. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next time.